Welcome to tonight's Tanya class. Okay, so thank God, we finished all the 4 sections of Tanya. We had the Siyum and Hadich, which was great. And now what we have left in Tanya is something which is called Kuntris Achroin Al Kama Prochim, which basically is several essays. To be exact, there's 9 essays, so we'll have 9 classes, 1 class per essay. So again, we're learning Tanya. We're in the Kuntris Achroin, the last section, which after the last section is called, several essays, and we are learning this week the first essay. Now, as I always say, is that Tanya, because it's the Bible of mysticism, so every chapter really teaches us foundational stuff, which are important in our spiritual growth and our comprehension of Torah and Mitzvot and our relationship with Hashem. But each chapter really has its own theme. The theme of this chapter is as follows: that when a person studies Torah with love and awe, you have the power to draw down the greatest light of God into this world. So in other words, you can study Torah, but then you can study Torah with love and with awe, and you'll be able to draw down powerful energies into this world. That's the theme of this chapter. Obviously, and again, to make it clear, this is my theme on it, based on the way I learned to pay a chapter of Tanya. There's no official theme, but that's the theme that I see the Alter Rebbe is teaching us in this chapter. Okay, so the Alter Rebbe, actually interesting is, as an introduction to this chapter, the Alter Rebbe says that you should look deeply into the first section of Tanya, chapter 40. So in order to learn and appreciate and understand this chapter of Tanya, the Alter Rebbe says to go back and look deeply into chapter 40. So in chapter 40 of Tanya, the Alter Rebbe says as follows: that when a person studies Torah, or you do a mitzvah, so what happens? You're you, am I, God is the infinite God. When I go sit down and study Torah, I'm creating a connection, a oneness with Hashem. I'm doing a mitzvah, I'm creating a oneness with Hashem. And from a simple perspective, if you sit down and study somebody's thesis, now you're comprehending what the person spent years developing. Someone asks you to do something, you do it, you create a relationship. So in chapter 40, the Alter Rebbe says that when a person studies Torah and does mitzvot, you're creating a relationship with Hashem. You're creating a oneness with Hashem. You, the ego, Hashem, through Torah and mitzvot, becoming one. Now, where do you become one? You will live in this world. So you become one, you're in this world, Hashem is all over, obviously, and you become one with Hashem. However, the Alter Rebbe says in chapter 40 that when you study the Torah, the same Torah that you're studying, and you're doing the mitzvah, but you add fuel to the fire. I mean, you're not just doing it, the expression in Hebrew is called mitzvahs anoshim alamada. You're doing it by route, you're doing it by rote, you're just doing it by habit. But you're really excited about it. Why are you studying Torah? Because you love Hashem. You're in awe of Hashem, and you want to do anything to connect to Hashem. It's Hashem's Torah, you're excited about it. Excited, A, from a place of love, or from a place of awe. Then what happens is, you supercharge the Torah and mitzvot, that initially just created a oneness, but you're actually connecting to the infinite light of Hashem. Not only here, but literally you're going to the Oyer and Soif. Because we live in this world. So when you study Torah and do mitzvot, again, adding love and awe for Hashem, you're connecting with the infinite light of Hashem. And the Alter Rebbe goes further on to explain. Think about this. What creates the oneness? Torah and mitzvot. That creates the oneness. What creates the oneness where you're literally connecting to the infinite light of Hashem? The love and the awe. Now, so let's say, for example, you study Torah, you did mitzvot, you're creating a oneness. It's not to the highest degree, but you're creating a oneness. Let's look at the other side. What happens if you say, I love Hashem, I'm in awe of Hashem, but you don't study Torah and do mitzvot? What do you get? Nothing. Words, feelings, but practically, how are you creating the oneness? Hashem said to study Torah, do mitzvot. No, I'm not studying Torah, I'm not doing mitzvot. But I love Hashem. I'm in awe of Hashem. It's great, but you're not connecting. So the Alter Rebbe explains in chapter 40 that love and awe, it's interesting. On one hand, by its own, it takes you nowhere. It takes you nowhere. But on the other hand, if you have love and awe for Hashem together with Torah Mitzvot, then you go to the infinite part of Hashem. And the Alter Rebbe gives an example, practical example. He says, take for example, you have a bird. So what is the main part of the bird? The main part of the bird is the head and the body. That's the bird. On the other hand, we all know the bird has wings. Now, what would be in theory if the bird didn't have wings? It's still a bird, just can't fly. But can you imagine a bird that has wings and no head and body? That's not a bird. That's feathers. What is it? As a matter of fact, even according to Jewish law, if there was no wings, the bird is still a kosher bird. Okay, pending a certain, you have to see where it got broken, but in the general idea is, if there's no wings and the bird is complete, the head and the body, it's still a kosher bird. So in other words, he uses that as an example to show you that the love and awe is like the wings. When you have it, you can fly, the bird. But on the other hand, if you just have the wings, what do you have? You have nothing. What are you flying? Okay. So that is, where the Alter Rebbe says, go back, study that well. So we brought that in, because obviously we're going to need that for this chapter, about the idea of love and awe. So the Alter Rebbe starts off and he says like this. We know that when you study Torah, there's different components in Torah. For example, let's say you're studying Talmud, or the Bible, 5 books of Moses. So there's the in-depth study of the Torah, complicated cases, complicated law. You have halachot of the Torah, and then you have the stories of the Torah. The stories in the 5 books of Moses, the stories in the prophets, in the writings, in the Talmud, full of stories. So the Alter Rebbe starts off by a question as follows. And he says that how is it that when you study Torah, meaning the stories of Torah, that you have the power to connect to what? To Chachma Ilah. Chachma Ilah, which I'll translate means the high level of intellect, which is referring to God's intellect. How can you connect to the high level intellect? What does that mean? I'll explain. I'll explain the question. When you're studying Torah, you have to apply your brain to try to comprehend what is Hashem saying. So what are you using? You're using your brain. You're comprehending it, and then you're really going into in-depth understanding of it. So when you're doing that, what are you doing? You're literally infusing within you the depth of the intellect of Hashem. Why is it so hard to comprehend certain parts of the Torah? It's Hashem's intellect. So when you sit intellectually and study the Torah and discuss the Torah and comprehend it and meditate on it and have questions and have a discussion about it, what you're doing is you are connecting with Chachma Ilah, the highest level of intellect of Hashem, while you're studying Torah. Now, when you're learning halacha, Jewish law, what is Jewish law? Or any mitzvah, for example. So a mitzvah or Jewish law is telling you, what does Hashem want? In Hebrew it's called, what is the Ratzon Hashem? Now we know in the Sfirot, just like the Sfirot here, Hashem has Sfirot. So when you're studying Torah, you're reaching the level of Chachma, of Ilah, the high level of Chachma. And when you're learning the Halacha and learning the Mitzvot of Hashem, you're learning the Ratzon Hashem. So think about what happens when you sit down to study Torah. You are connecting either, for sure, to the intellect of Hashem as you study, and if you learn the halachot and the mitzvot, you're collecting to what? To the Ratzon Hashem. Now, that applies to where in-depth study. But what happens, you read a story in the Torah, and there's so many stories. Pick any story. The tribes, the Pharaoh, Moses, Jacob, the patriarchs, the matriarchs, stories in the Talmud. Where's the in-depth study there? You're reading a story. So how are you connecting to Chachmei Ilah of Hashem? It's a story. Pharaoh said this, and Moshe said this. How are you connecting to the Chachmei Ilah, the intellect of Hashem, the highest level of intellect? Or how are you connecting to the Ratzon Hashem? What's the Ratzon Hashem over there? So this is the Alter Rebbe posing this question. Because normally when you study Torah, you're connecting to the Chachmei Ilah of Hashem. Or Ratzon Hashem. But when you're reading a story in the Torah, how are you connecting to Chachmei Ilah or Ratzon Hashem? Now, so the Alter Rebbe says, 1 second. We all know, even though you read stories in the Talmud, stories in the 5 books of Moses, and the prophets, and we all know there's something which is called Pardes. Pardes means a garden. What does that mean? When you study Torah, you can study simple. Pardes stands for Pshat, Remesh, Drus, and Soid. You can study simple Pshat. What is the story telling us? A basic story. Then there's different hints and different homiletic ideas. And then there's the secrets of the Torah. And in the stories of the Torah, there's tremendous depth. You think you're reading a story about Moshe Rabbeinu did this and said that. There's tremendous depth. For example, let's use an example. Let's use a simple example, a romantic example. Yaakov meets Rachel. And what does he say when he meets her? He kisses her. Romantic story. You guys are getting excited. Yaakov kisses, right? Oh my gosh, I lost you all. Come back in.
Yaakov was a mover.
He was. There you go. I got you excited. We should have started with the story. We would have had you guys rolling in the beginning. Okay, right? So Yaakov kisses Rachel. Imagine for a minute. Yaakov, our patriarch, Rachel, our matriarch, and they kiss. Nothing sacrilegious. They kiss each other. So on one hand, you can say, I say to you, what's the Torah telling us? What do you mean? A romantic story. Let's make a movie about it. Right? You're smiling already. You're imagining the story. Let's get Steven Spielberg on the case, right? Okay. But according to Kabbalah, this is not a simple story. Because Yaakov, we know spiritually, we know Abraham is chesed, kindness. Yitzchok is gvura. What's Yaakov? Yaakov is rachamim, compassion. So Yaakov resembles what? Rachamim, compassion, passion, compassion. Rachel, we know, represents who? On a spiritual level, the Jewish people. Knesset Yisrael, a woman is the vessel. Knesset Yisrael. So when Yaakov meets Rachel, which means Rachamim is meeting the Jewish people, see, he kisses her. What's kiss her? It's an intimate relationship. It means he's trying to infuse the Jewish people with compassion. So all of a sudden, when you read the story Yaakov meeting Rachel, if it's a simple story, you can say, what's Chachma Ilah here? What high-level intellect? But when you start reading the commentaries and the Kabbalistic insights, and you see this is heavy stuff going on here, you have to know the Sfirot, and it's the level of compassion, and Rachel is the Jewish people, and he's infusing the compassion into the Jewish people. Not only compassion, huge compassion to the Jewish people, so there's depth. So the Alter Rebbe saying, so simply you can tell me, guess what? How do you get the Chachmei Ilah in the story? Read the Kabbalistic insights. There's a lot of commentaries on the stories of the Torah. So there's Chachmei Ilah. So the Alter Rebbe says, true. However, how many people know that story? How many people till today's class know that insight? Right? You guys are all smiling, right? Yeah. And shaking. You didn't know the story. Why? Because that already, you have to be a Kabbalist, you have to be willing to study Kabbalah, you have to have an understanding Kabbalah. But an average person reads the story. Oh, they kissed each other. Right? That's all you got there. And nothing more than that. So again, back to the Alter Rebbe's original question, even though, yes, there is depth, and if you study it with that, you have Chachmei Ilah. But based on the simple story, where's the Chachmei Ilah over there? So the Alter Rebbe explains like this, and this is a very, very important Kabbalistic idea, and that's as follows. What happens is, anytime we sit in this world and study Torah, so who's studying Torah? You sit down to study Torah. Who is studying Torah? The human being is studying Torah. You're sitting with you didn't leave your head at home, or your heart at home, or your body. Your whole human being is here. Your head, your heart, your emotions, your body's here, and you're sitting and studying Torah. And this is so beautiful. The Alter Rebbe says, when you're studying Torah, you know what happens? I'm going to say the word in Hebrew, or in Aramaic actually, and I'm going to translate it. And the opposite of this, there's diyoikna of the Adam ha'elyon l'mayla, which means, and let me explain, I'll translate and explain, that every single person that exists in this world has a spitting image of that person. Is each and every one of us, as we're sitting here and studying Torah, we each have a mirror of us. You got this? Getting spooky, right? We each have a mirror image of us that exists in a very high level in heaven, Adam Elyon. So we're the Adam HaTachton. We're the human being down here. But every one of us have literally a copy of us on high and copies us. So when we're sitting here and studying Torah, the copy of us in heaven is studying Torah. Now, so what is the author explaining? Very simple. There's chachma ilah when you're studying in depth and when you're basically studying the will of Hashem. So you down here are connecting to chachma ilah or the ratzon elyon. That's when it comes to regular studying Torah and halacha. Here the author is saying is that the Adam Elyon, when you're studying Torah down here, even if you're reading a story, your image of you, the image of you, which is on high, is also studying Torah. So that's how you're connecting to Chachma Ilah. Because the way you study Torah, we're finite human beings. But when your image of you is studying Torah, it's there in a Kabbalistic, spiritual, infinite world. How do you think it's studying the story of the Torah? With tremendous depth, with tremendous vision and clarity. Unbelievable. You got it?
So it's studied with more depth than we do down here.
Absolutely. So therefore when you're studying a story in the Torah, or you're reading a story, your counterpart on high is reading it. So in other words, so therefore that how you connect the Chachma Ilah, not through your in-depth study, because you're reading a simple story. But it's true you can study a story with depth, but when you don't study it with depth, your counterpart on high is connecting you to Chachma Ilah. That's how the Alter Rebbe answers this question. But based on this, the Alter Rebbe says, this idea, it's a powerful idea, that when you're studying Torah down here, your image above is studying Torah, and that's connecting you to Chachma Ilah, because it's on a high level. The Alter Rebbe says this same thing happens when a person sits down. You ever sit down and pull out a Chumash or a Mishnah and Talmud, and you're just looking at the words. And you're thinking what it's saying. You're not articulating the words. And you're not excited about the words. Just simply you take out a Chumash, Mishnah, Talmud, and you look. Don't read. You just look. You see what it says. You're thinking what it's saying. So the Alter Rebbe says, guess what? Are you at that time using your words? No. Are you excited about it? No. Are you really using your mind to comprehend what you're saying? No. You're just reading and you're thinking. So the Alter says, what happens when you're doing that, right? Your higher level of your soul is doing it, obviously at a much powerful level. So in other words, even though you're not really doing much, but you're doing a lot through your counterpart. Like you have a partner. You have a partner. Exactly. So in other words, what the author was saying is just like when it comes to stories, when you're reading a story here, your counterpart on high is connecting to the story on a much greater level. The same thing also, when you're looking at Torah, you're not really paying that much attention. You're just like, superficially glancing and getting some ideas. So even though you're not, again, connecting on the deepest level, but your counterpart on high is connecting on a very, very powerful level. Now, so that is in terms of just thinking. And here the Alter Rebbe takes us on a journey, and a very powerful journey, which is beautiful, shows you the different levels of studying Torah. And the Alter Rebbe says like this. When a person uses his speech to study Torah, because before we said, for example, that's when you just think. But when a person sits down to study Torah, again, it could be Chumash, it could be Mishnah, it could be Talmud, it could be Kabbalah, it could be Zohar, it could be Halacha, whatever you're studying. And you literally say the words. You articulate the words. So now you're in a whole different league. Because now you're using your physical body and your physical speech to say the words. And here the author puts it into several categories. If when you're saying the words, you're like totally nullified, you have like clarity of vision, and you're like just accepting exactly what God's telling you. You're reading the Chumash, you're saying it, and it's clear. You're not confused, and you're totally one with Hashem. This is what Hashem is saying. This is what Hashem wants. Like you're just 100% a clear conduit. Think, for example, if you had a pipe, right? And you're trying to get water through the pipe. But in the pipe, there's junk in there. So junk is going to come through, and it's not going to be full pressure. But what happens if you have a pipe that's 100% clear? Clear water just gushing right through. You have a good flow of energy. So the same thing also is when you're sitting down and you say the words of Torah, and you're just really like one with Hashem, which Alter Rebbe says that's on the level of a tzaddik, then you're actually connecting to the highest world, the world of Atzilut. So just since we're going to use the terms different worlds, just remember again, there's 4 different worlds. Atzilut being the highest, Bria, the second, creation, Yitzira, formation, Nasiya, the world of action. And when we say high-low, we don't mean physically, even though we mean more godliness, less godliness, more concealment, obviously, and therefore less godliness. God is all over. The question is how much revealed, concealed. So when you sit and study Torah, and you're totally in an acceptance mode, you're not in a confrontational mode, you're accepting, oh my gosh, this is what Hashem wants us to do, great, I got it, right? Then you're elevating yourself to the world of Atzilut. Now, that's the highest level. What happens if you're sitting and you're saying the words of Torah, again, speech, but here you're trying to comprehend it. And the comprehension, I get it. And because you get it, you get excited about it. So you're saying it, but you're excited. Why? Because you got it. You spend time thinking about it. You're studying something in Talmud or Mishnah, and it's hard for you to comprehend it. And you sit and you work and you discuss with someone, and you finally, I got it. Like the light bulb went on. You know what happens then? And then you really get excited about it. So, in other words, we live in the world of excitement. But the question is, what's inspiring the excitement? So here, the Alter, when the inspiration is being inspired by the intellect, then you actually elevated yourself to where it, and what you're studying, to the world of Bria. Not the world of Atzilut. Atzilut is the highest, where you totally won. But when you use your intellect to inspire yourself, then you have elevated yourself to the world of Bria. Now, what happens if you just don't see it, or you're not meditating the way you should, but you're inspired. You see something, it's wonderful, right? You get excited without really thinking too much. That's great. You've elevated yourself where? To the world of Yitzira. Now, what happens if you just read the words of Torah? In other words, you're not like one with Hashem at it, or you're not even thinking too deeply, or you're not, singing and dancing and getting excited. You're just reading the words of Torah. So then, again, you're reading it. It's more than thinking, because the original one we said was thinking. That's where your counterpart is scoring you the points. But here you're actually reading the words. You're saying the words. Then you elevate yourself to the world of Asiya, because we're living in a physical world. So we're talking in the world of Asiya, the spiritual world of Asiya. Now, so that is all the 4 levels of speech. Again, the highest level where you totally one with Hashem is Atzilut. Where you're using your intellect to inspire your emotions is the world of Bria. Where you're emotionally excited is the world of Yitzira. And where you're just saying the world is the world of Asiya. And again, just to recap, what happens if you're just thinking, you're reading and you're thinking, or you're not saying the words? So then what's happening is your counterpart on high is connecting you to a high place. So thought doesn't really accomplish major elevation. It's your counterpart that gets you somewhere. In speech, the Alter Rebbe gives the 4 different levels how you go. Now, so the Alter Rebbe asks a simple question. We're giving obviously we're saying when you say the words of Torah, there's 4 different levels. You can go all the way to Atzilut, if you see the oneness of Hashem, or if you're inspired based on intellect, it goes to Bria, or if it's emotions, it's Yetzira, or if you're just saying the words Asiyah. But we did say that what happens if you just think the words, your counterpart on high puts on the spiritual light over there. So the Alter Rebbe says, and he quotes from the Zohar, and the Zohar says many, many places, that guess what? If you just think, you're not accomplishing anything. You actually have to say it. You actually got to do something. Thinking doesn't accomplish anything. And here we're saying that guess what? No, thinking, just like the stories, when you read the stories, it opens up the higher level of light. So the same thing also when you think, it does that. How does that work? There's always says that doesn't happen. So the Alter Rebbe says like this, that the truth is that when a person does think words of Torah, your counterpart on high is thinking. And if because your counterpart is thinking, you do create light. Where? In the higher worlds. Yeah. However, because you're just thinking, and who's creating the light? Your counterpart on high. And you're creating spiritual energy, no question asked. But it's also true what the Zohar is saying, you don't create anything. What does it mean you create anything? You don't create any opportunity for that light to come back to this world. You got it? So the Alter was saying this, when you think, when you read and you think, you're creating a light on high through your counterpart. That's doing the same thing. However, you're not drawing down the light back to this world. Now, what's the problem with that? The problem is very simple. We were created and put in this world. Why? To bring light into this world. So if you're sitting and just looking and you're creating light in heaven, that's very nice. But it's not your mission. Your mission was to bring light into this world. Now, if you're just thinking, you're not going to bring down light into this world. So you're not fulfilling your mission. Therefore, there's always saying you're not accomplishing anything. It's not that you're accomplishing nothing. You're putting light in the high. But you're not accomplishing for your mission. You have a mission in this world, to bring light into the world. You've created, you put into this world, to bring light into this world. To bring light in high, you could have stayed in heaven also. What did you come down here for? So that's what the Zohar is saying, you're not accomplishing anything. Because you're not bringing the light down into this world. Now, the Alter Rebbe continues. What we learned before, that when a person studies Torah, b'dibur, so what happens then is, so we said there's different levels. You can go to the world of Atzilut, if it's straight up, you're totally nullified. The world of Bria, if you're using your intellect, the world of Yetzira, etc. And if you're just saying the words, then you can go to the level of Asiyah. So the Alter Rebbe says, you have to bear in mind that this is based on the Alter Rebbe's introduction. We said, go back, look in chapter 40. What did we learn in chapter 40? That in order for the Torah Mitzvot to connect to the infinite light, what has to happen? You have to have love and awe of Hashem. You have to have love and awe. So since you need to have love and awe, without love and awe, you're not going to go on high. What did we just learn from the Zohar? What's the lowest level? Where a person says the words. And what we say, it actually pierces through, leaves the physical world, it goes into the spiritual world, grant you only the world of Asiyah, but it does go on high, without love and awe. So how come the Zohar is saying here that it gets elevated, but on the other hand we know without love and awe it doesn't go anywhere. And the Alter explains very, very powerfully, he says like this. That when a person studies Torah, and again, just says the words, so true, it gets elevated to the world of Asiyah, but it only gets elevated to, the Alter uses the term, the corridors and the houses, which means only to the external part. It does not go internally into the sfirot or into the soul. In order for it to go into the sfirot or into the soul, or the Alter Rebbe used actually a very, very strong, deep internal word, in order for it to go kedem Hashem, in front of Hashem, into the depths of Hashem, you have to have love and awe. So the Alter Rebbe is saying like this: if you sit down and you're reading Torah, it's going to go up to Asiyah. But we're the external part. If you sit and read, but you do it with love and awe, then not only is it going to go up, it's going to go up to the internal part, and it's actually going to go up where? To Kedem Hashem. So, as you see, this chapter is a very, very important and beautiful chapter, because it shows you, the Alter Rebbe, what happens when you study Torah and you do mitzvot. Meaning to say is that the highest and most powerful and potent level is that when you're studying Torah, you have to make sure to work on your love for Hashem. And you have to make sure to work on your awe of Hashem. Because with the love and with the awe of Hashem, you will take the Torah study that you're studying to the highest level. It's going to go pierce through Asiyah, Bria, Yetzirah, all the way to Atzilut. All the way to the highest level. Yes. Again, obviously that's the goal. But if you can't get it, it's still going to go somewhere. Depending on the different levels that he discussed. But really the goal is to really, as you see importantly in this chapter, it's really, really important to develop a loving relationship with Hashem, to be in awe of Hashem. And this way when you study Torah out of love and awe, and when you do mitzvot out of love and awe, you will take the Torah you're studying and bring it up to the highest places. And more importantly, as Alter Rebbe says in this chapter, you will actually draw back down the light into this world, providing you're saying the Torah and mitzvot, and then you're fulfilling your mission. Because we were born into this world for what? To bring down the light to this world. So the key is study, say the word, say it out of love and awe. The Torah will be elevated, and you will draw down great, beautiful light into this world. And this way you fulfill your mission that we came to this world to bring light into the world.
I love that. I love the